Hey there, and welcome. Have you ever been in the middle of a sentence and just stopped? Because you weren't totally sure if you were picking the right English word? Yeah, we've all been there. Today, we're going to clear up some of those tricky words, and we're going to do it in a way that just makes sense. So let's jump right in. Seriously, why is that? It's one of the most confusing parts of learning English, right? You see a word, you hear a word, and your brain goes, wait, I know that one, but it means something completely different. Well, that's exactly what we're going to unpack today. The goal here is to get rid of that confusion so you can start using these words with confidence. So here's our game plan. We're going to start with words about strength and survival. Then we'll talk about action and energy. After that, it's all about making connections. Then comes the big one. We'll untangle 3 words that are super easy to mix up. And we'll wrap up with a final challenge that I think we can all relate to. Let's do this. All right, first up, we are diving into 2 really powerful ideas that are basically total opposites. You know, the strength to keep going and the moment when things come to an end. So on one hand, we've got resilience, that amazing ability to bounce back when things get tough. And on the other hand, we have perish, which is, a pretty final ending. Let's take a closer look at each one. Okay, so resilience. This is a noun, and it's all about that inner toughness, that ability to get back on your feet after a setback. If you want to describe someone who has resilience, you'd use the adjective resilient. For example, you could say, the community showed incredible resilience after the flood. It's a word that's all about strength, recovery, and just pure endurance. And now for its opposite, perish. This is a verb, and it means to die or be destroyed, usually in a pretty sudden or harsh way. It's a heavy word for sure. You might hear something like, without water, the plants will perish. So you can really see the difference, right? A resilient plant might survive a drought, but a less hardy one, well, it's going to perish. Okay, let's switch gears. Our next group of words is all about how we use our most valuable resources, things like our time and our energy. We're going to look at 3 words that are all connected here: expend, consume, and energetic. They all have to do with using energy, but each one has its own unique flavor. First, we have expend. Think of it as a slightly more formal cousin of the word spend. It's a verb, and it means to use up a resource. You don't just expend money, you expend things like energy or effort. For example, she had to expend a great deal of effort to finish the project on time. Next up is consume. Now, this one's interesting because it also means to use up a resource, but it has a second, very common meaning, to eat or drink something. So you can consume fuel, or you can consume your lunch. And if a project consumes a lot of your time, you'd call it time-consuming. And all that talk about using energy brings us perfectly to energetic. This is an adjective, and it's what you call someone or something that's just full of life and vitality. Spirited, lively. A perfect example, the puppies were so energetic and playful. It's kind of what you feel like when you have plenty of energy to expend. Okay. So we've talked about our own personal energy. Now let's shift focus to the energy between people. This section is all about the words we use when we're building relationships and making connections. Let's talk about the word bond. This one's a 2-for-1 deal. It can be a noun, the special connection or tie between people, or it can be a verb, the actual act of forming that connection. You'll almost always hear it used with the preposition with. For example, the team went on a retreat to bond with each other. It's all about creating those important ties. Now for a word you'll hear all the time in the workplace, onboard. As a verb, it means bringing a new person into a company or a system and getting them up to speed. The idea actually comes from getting on board a ship. So you might hear a manager say, we need to onboard the new hires next week. All right, deep breath. We have arrived at the main event. This next part is all about 3 words that sound so much alike they trip up almost everyone at some point, but we're going to sort them out. Persecution, prosecution, prostitution. Yeah, they sound incredibly similar, but their meanings are worlds apart, so let's finally put them side by side and break them down once and for all. The absolute key to telling these words apart is context. First, we have persecution. This is about mistreating or harming people, often because of their race, religion, or beliefs. Think of it this way. Persecution happens to people. For instance, the book described the history of religious persecution. Okay, next, prosecution. This word belongs in a courtroom. It's all about the legal process of charging someone with a crime. An easy way to remember it is to think of the prosecutor, the lawyer in the case. For example, the prosecution presented its final arguments. And finally, we have prostitution. This refers to the act of engaging in sexual activity for payment. So there you have it. One is about oppression, one is about the law, and one is about a specific occupation. Three very, very different things. And for our final word of the day, we're going to talk about something I'm pretty sure every single one of us has dealt with. Yep, we're talking about the fine art of putting things off until later. Procrastination. It's a noun, and it's simply the act of delaying or postponing something you know you should be doing. It's a huge topic in productivity and, well, just life in general. A classic example? My procrastination is the only reason this essay is late. Sound familiar? And that really brings it all home, doesn't it? Learning vocabulary isn't just about memorizing words. It's about understanding our own lives. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. What's one thing you might be procrastinating on right now? Hopefully, after our chat today, practicing these tricky words isn't one of them. Thanks so much for joining me.